And you know what it means if it's Tuesday night? It means it's Rod Liddle, columnist for The Sun, The Sunday Times and The Spectator. You have been warned. Welcome, Rod.
Hello, mate. How are you doing?
I'm very, very well. Now, I wanted to get you on this because you will have thrilled to the Prime Minister's address to the nation this morning about Southport and Axel Rudakubana. Now, you know, you're a journalist, I'm a journalist, you know, we know these things. I think a lot of the members of the public know these things. He effectively said, you know, I'd have never been yes, I knew about the ricin and the Al-Qaeda manuals, which he finally conceded was probably something to do with terrorism. He said, but if I'd have affected the trial, prejudiced the trial of this man, the public would never have forgiven me. So what's he saying? What's he saying? This is what he's saying is that if the public know the charges that a defendant is accused of when he goes into court, that will prejudice his or her case. That's what he's saying, that we mustn't know charges against defendants because they can prejudice a trial. The utter absurdity of that is off the scale.
He's lying, Kevin. And he's lied throughout this whole case. And I never used to think this, but I genuinely believe that there will be a real outpouring of anger and possibly violence as a consequence of the way in which we are continually lied to by people like Starmer and by the Merseyside police, as it happens, about what is happening in our country and what the cause of it is. Because that's not all. I think, you know, we are so far behind the rest of Western Europe and America on this now, given the Trump government, given the way Europe has gone. There is us left alone being lied to and dissembled to by people who wish to protect their idiotic agendas. Now, he didn't only talk about the court case. He also said, so Keir Starmer was given the chance to sort of look through and pick out what the common determining factors are for these sorts of attacks, such as a hideous one in Southport, where 3 little girls were murdered. And he said it was young men alone in their bedrooms. It's them. Is it something about their bedrooms then that is driving these kids, these young men, to murder? Is it that we don't have wallpaper anymore? You know, what is it exactly? What is this cause that he thinks it? And he's looked back through all these atrocities which have happened. People stabbed on London Westminster Bridge, Manchester Arena blown up, Sergeant Rigby murdered in the street. The bombs on the London Underground, which killed 52 people. He's looked at that and thought, it's bedrooms. It's people in bedrooms. The word Islamism and Muslim and jihad never passes his lips.
Unbelievable.
Could that not be the connecting factor in these?
Yeah. Let's just state, Rod, what the truth is. You're absolutely right. I've said it on Twitter all day. The Prime Minister this morning lied to this nation. I think he's lied many times, but this was barefaced, shameless and in our face. He said that, yes, he knew about the ricin and the Al-Qaeda manual from day one when Axel Rudakubana's house was searched. He knew about it, but chose not to reveal it because he said to reveal that would have prejudiced the trial. No. The reason that he didn't reveal that was that he had been going round saying, him and all his acolytes and the police had been saying that when the rioters in Southport and other cities alleged, implied, screamed that there was a terrorist connection here, he had said that was utterly untrue and they were spreading misinformation. So the reason he was lying today is we now know that they weren't spreading misinformation. They had some kind of information which wasn't that far off the mark. It was him. It was Starmer, yes, and the Merseyside police who were spreading misinformation by saying this was a young lad from Cardiff and there is absolutely no connection to terrorists. How dare they? They just lied to us.
They lie to us all the time, and he has clearly lied in this. I mean, it's QED. He did indeed condemn the rioters for making a link with terrorism when he knew that it was terrorism. So we know for a fact he's lying, and he lies continually. And you look across the Atlantic with a feeling of hope, but also of great jealousy.
Yeah, you tell me about it.
Well, there's a government which is kicking these absurdities out and doing so with the support of the public. I mean, I think the public's got things wrong in the last few years, to be absolutely honest. It hasn't put enough weight on those cultural issues, on those wokery issues that it should have done.
Yeah.
Because they're not just. It's not just about being impolite. It's not just about hurting feelings. Wokery kills. It leads to rape gangs never being discovered. It leads to us not treating this terrorist threat in the way which it should be treated. Yep. And the obvious example of that is prevent. Frankly.
Yeah. What do you have to do to get into Prevent, Rod? It seems very, very difficult. You'd have thought old Axel might have qualified, but 3 times he was referred to.
3 times.
His obsession with genocide, his obsession with the Rwanda genocide, his stated desire to interviewers from Prevent that he'd really like to rather massacre a few school kids was written off as nothing to do with terrorism. So it's hard to get into Prevent, isn't it?
Well, it's just bizarre, and you also find that once you do get into Prevent, you meet these stupid, fat-headed liberal morons who tell you that you're probably right to be angry at the British state, you're probably right to be furious about colonialism, and that Hamas is not a terrorist organisation, the Israeli state is. And we found that out. We found that out because people who've worked for the government's anti-terrorism, the people who are trying to protect us from this evil, have blown the whistle on this, that they are on the side of the terrorists. And it is only in this country, only country which does this. As you quite rightly said, the French have got a far more realistic attitude towards the threat from Islam and radical Islam than we have. In fairness, of course, the French have got a lot more Muslims in their country than we have. But, the rape gang crisis and Southport, taken together, will infuriate the public, apart from a few BM Pensant middle-class liberals in London.
I spoke to somebody yesterday who's been covering the legal proceedings ever since day one, has been in the court every day, and to be honest with you, is fixated on the trial, but a real expert. And she said we're beginning to scratch the surface of what was covered up. She actually said that she believes that some of the information that may well now emerge could put Keir Starmer and some of his front bench into a seriously precarious position, that the Prime Minister's job could be on the line here. And frankly, drip by drip, we seem to find out new elements that this Prime Minister and his acolytes have decided not to tell us. And in the end, I think the public are going to go, you lied, you covered up, you're keeping us in the dark, get the hell out of here.
Well, no, and just wait until some enterprising young journalist, I'm too old for the job, mate, wait until some enterprising young journalist digs around a little bit in what happened within the Crown Prosecution Service in the years 2008, 2009, 2010, when the grooming, as it's called, the rape gang stuff was first being presented to the police. And we know that on at least one occasion, Sir Keir Starmer's department decided not to prosecute, even though they had loads and loads of evidence. A bit more digging around, he's a goner.
Yeah, I think so. Don't forget, he was a DPP, as you quite rightly say, Rod, from 2008 until 2013. The authorities, the police, and the government were well aware that the rape gang activity was unfolding at a rate of knots. He's the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions. How many gang rapists, rape groomers, whatever you want to call them, were prosecuted during his tenure? I'll tell you, zero. And he had the temerity to boast the other day, I put in place the prosecutions for the perpetrators. He's shameless. He really is.
What we need to find out is how many cases came before Starmer's department and what his involvement was in deciding not to prosecute.
Did he take the Jimmy Savile approach and decide not to?
Yeah. You would guess, wouldn't you? But that's what we need to find out. And so if there's an enterprising young journalist out there who wants to dig around a bit, there's your job, mate. Make yourself the Woodward and Bernstein of Great Britain.
You're right. There are great stories there.
There are great stories
that are seriously just bubbling under, and I think they're going to surface, and then our Prime Minister and his god-awful government are going to be in big trouble, and it couldn't happen to a nicer bunch.